how much would people pay to be able to speak to somebody who goes in every single day to solve a problem that you have amongst lots of different companies, including your competitors, understands how to solve it and understands how to get you to the other side? That's a consultant that you might pay real money for. Well, that should be a salesperson, right? Who matches all those things. And the problem is if you come on too strong and you're pushing your solution, all that goes away. But if you actually are just dealing with what I just laid out, the solution will eventually sell itself.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by David Kreiger. David is founder and president of SalesRoads. So welcome, David.
Thanks for having me on, Fred.
Well, I had to, because when we're having our little backwards and forwards, it boiled down to something which sort of made me giggle and think, well, yeah, there's a good episode here. A lot of salespeople are doing prospecting wrong.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what you said. I went, well, yes, let's explore. So I guess you better start by telling us, how's it going wrong? What we're doing wrong?
Yeah, well, first I'm going to even just back up, and I'd say that some sales people are doing the most wrong thing, which is not prospecting at all. So that is an issue. But as long as you are not doing that wrong, let's dive into the actual mechanics. Yeah, double wrong. I think that we are both firm believers that this is a human business, and it is really important to understand your prospects, understand your customers, understand their needs, their pains, their issues. And then by being helpful to them and understanding that, you can be a trusted advisor, and then that is the ultimate form of sales. And so I think when people think prospecting, they think, well, that doesn't align with any of that. And when it's done wrong, it doesn't. So they are right in that regard. But when it's done right, it actually sets the stage for that in a way that it is really hard to do through a lot of other means, at least at some level of scale. And so what I would say, and then we can unpack it and go into it, is that the approach and the mentality of prospecting has to really start with a discovery-led approach. A lot of times people think that discovery starts in that first call or that first lunch or whatnot, but it really can start with prospecting, both in how you research who you're going to call, because you need to make sure that the folks that you are calling are at least within the realm of the right type of prospect for who you could help. But then when you have those calls, you are looking at it from an account level and thinking through, what are the things that I need to know to be able to see if I can help the individuals in this account. And so I would say that is the first principle in doing prospecting in the right way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You sort of said about sales about helping. I often, or I'm using more and more the language now. Sales is about decision support. It's helping people to make the right decision. But you said being useful, being helpful, and that is because there's something that they're doing or not doing, which is causing them struggles, causing them issues, pain. Yeah. So if we can surface that and get talking about it faster, we can get on with doing better stuff quicker, can't we, as well? And all that good human stuff where we kind of collaborate and coordinate and everything else. So, okay, so you said two things there. We need to research better and then kind of apply that research into account level. So yeah, like you said, we want to unpack it. Yeah, I want to unpack it. Let's go into that in more detail.
Yeah. So first, I think just starting with the research, the prospecting isn't easy, right? And it's in some ways gotten harder because it's harder to get people to pick up their phone, to answer emails, things like that. But what I've been doing this for 20 years, building SDR, appointment setting, lead generation programs for our clients. And the thing that has year over year, in some ways now month over month, gotten so much better is the research that we can do. The amount of information that is out there about accounts, about prospects, about individuals, about the companies, a lot of that is just out there for the taking. And so for years, we would have to do that manually. Either the SDR, the cold caller would have to do that themselves, or we've set up some methodologies where we have some of that research that was done for them. But now in the age of AI, it is just amazing the types of insights that you can figure out. So if you are trying to figure out the types of companies that you want to go after and you have a really good sense of who your ICP is, you can create a very targeted account list that helps to match that in ways that took hours and hours of research before. So that is the first thing. You've got to be able to do the research, and there is absolutely no excuse to not do it now with the tools that we have at our fingertips, because you can basically set up AI agents to do that research. But the second part, which I think is maybe more practical or at least understandable to everybody, is I think we all would like to understand some of the problems that our prospects are facing, some of the things that they are running into, the bottlenecks that they are seeing through their manufacturing processes, maybe some of the regulations that are coming in that they need to figure out, some of the things that are slowing them down. And when you do prospecting right, it is really a methodology to uncover some of those things that you can't get through that online research, because you have to call that plant manager. You've got to talk to the people on the grounds, on the front lines, and ask them some of those questions. And that is, I think, the big thing. And I think, Fred, you've talked about this in some of your work as well, is that we sometimes forget that. And sometimes we just think about the decision maker, right? And that VP level, that C-level person that is going to sign the contract. But a lot of times they don't know some of the issues that are happening on their front lines. And that's that opportunity where we can be that trusted advisor. If we are calling into some of those individuals and not calling in to sell them, but calling in to learn, to ask them some questions, you all of a sudden can surface some insights that both help you understand whether your company or product or service can help them, but then you can actually surface those insights to that eventual decision maker to help illuminate some of the things that they might not even realize are happening on the ground floor.
Yeah, oh, I like illuminate. That's a good word. Well, so I mean, yeah, again, totally agreed. One of the things I talk quite often about, and I love your opinion on this, is that I tell people they need to assume. This goes totally against what people are so often taught. Because I don't know if this is an American thing, but certainly as UK trainers, they'll write assume on the board and then put a line between you and me. And you don't assume, it makes an ass of you and me. It's like, whoa. And it's like you've delivered some kind of real big philosophical. Yeah. It's wrong. You do assume. I think you do assume. You go, if you are a plant manager, yeah, if you're a production director, it is more than likely that you are going to have these stories. I'm going to make that assumption. Yeah, it's a fair assumption. It's an intelligent assumption. Why? Well, because lots of other people like you have had this problem. We've dealt with them. Therefore, I'm going to lead with that. I'm going to use that, and then we can start to have a conversation around that. And if you say you haven't, I'll say, well, brilliant, happy days. Can you tell us what you do to make sure you don't tell me? Because I want to learn now anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're right. We do struggle with that a little bit. Well, yeah, no surprise. Many do. So I think that's where we can get these insights and just more than ever start getting inside what's happening there. The AI is super for doing that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think especially if you understand your market, you understand your industry, you understand the accounts at a high level, you're going to understand what are some of those common pains, some of those common problems. And then you do have the right to assume, right? Because you see things not just from one company's perspective, but as a salesperson, we actually have the blessing that we are speaking to lots of different companies and understanding the common things. And hopefully the product or service that we are selling has been developed to address some of those issues. So yeah, I think I like that a lot, Fred. I think it does a few different things. One, first of all, it lends our credibility. It shows that we understand their market, that we can be trusted. I also think that sometimes in a prospecting call, people will clam up just to clam up, right? And if you give them some thing that makes them not feel bad about a problem they might be having, know that it is something that is common amongst other folks at other industries, and it's something you've solved, it gives them sort of the cover or the permission to start opening up and talking about it.
Yeah, I actually I heard something very similar from a very senior person, C-level exec, CFO it was actually. And we were chatting away, and he says, I love salespeople. And you could have knocked me down with a feather. I was not expecting that. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, really? Why? He says, well, because they can share with me what else is going on in the market with people
Yeah.
like me that I wouldn't normally have access to. Is I don't want them dwelling too much on the problem and trying to make that whole pain chain thing go, because I know how painful this is. I live in it. Don't do that. Not a smart move. But these are things we're saying with other people like you. Oh, good. I don't feel quite as strange or out the ordinary, or whatever. Other people are dealing with that. Yeah. Okay. How are you helping them deal with it?
Yeah.
And you're in. Yeah. So yeah, that seeing things from others' perspectives is a useful angle that some prospecting should be using.
Yeah. And to get to that type of relationship you're describing, the key thing is to not be that pushy salesperson, right? The reason why people don't engage in those conversations, they feel like they're being sold. How many people would want to have free consultative conversations where they, with a consultant who speaks to every, I'll paint it this way. How much would people pay to be able to speak to somebody who goes in every single day to solve a problem that you have amongst lots of different companies, including your competitors, understands how to solve it and understands how to get you to the other side? That's a consultant that you might pay real money for. Well, that should be a salesperson, right? Who matches all those things. And the problem is if you come on too strong and you're pushing your solution, all that goes away. But if you actually are just dealing with what I just laid out, the solution will eventually sell itself, right? And so everybody should want to be talking to salespeople. The problem is we mess it up because we go in there trying to sell our stuff, but leverage the knowledge we have, and that's going to do the heavy lifting for you.
This is so where I've seen this, it's actually with poorly trained salespeople. I mean, look, yeah, that's right, not rocket science, but it's people who don't want to be trained in sales because they think it'll make them salesy, right?
Mm,
So they don't learn how to do it properly. So when they do have to do it, they come across as incredibly salesy because they think,
yeah.
oh no, what I now must do is try to push and tell everyone how great my stuff is, what a wonderful product we've got, how it's a life changing, and then usually cutting edge, innovative, market leader, same words,
Yeah.
whatever industry, yeah. Rather than the person who's been trained, they're like, well, no, I'm just gonna be curious. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to let you talk about your favorite subject, which is you.
Absolutely. Right. And your problems and your
and,
issues.
and you're having a wonderful time because you're chatting about what you like talking about, and I'm going, okay,
Yeah.
oh, interesting, yeah,
Yeah. And they put on the sales voice, right? And that thing. And so I think the best advice as far as tonality and things like that, that I'm sure a lot of people have, well, is you got to be talking to people like it's you're at the bar, at the pub after, right? Right? Where somebody's had a terrible day and they're just telling you all about the issues at their company, and you're not going to be starting to say, well, have you looked at the market leading, solution that's cutting edge? No, you're a shoulder to cry on, and you ask them questions, you have a person to person conversation about it.
it's so funny. I had to give. So the two things coming out of this. One, I felt terrible giving advice to somebody the other day. She sounded so enthusiastic, and she's putting this energy on. I'm like, we just need to tone it down a little bit. I
Yeah.
felt terrible giving that because she was
Yeah.
working so hard to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what she thought would be what salesy voice is like, it doesn't help. But very often, that like you said, talk to somebody like they're in the bar. I had a big argument with someone about this recently. They're saying, "Oh, that's not very professional, though, is it?" I don't understand what you mean. They said, "No, you should be using words like this," and was kind of giving me this kind of thesaurus of like, sound like ChatGPT on a really bad day. Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly.
elevating this and systemizing that. Blah, blah, blah. I said, "That's just not professional." Because it's professional words. I said, "No, nobody talks like that."
Yeah.
And it's, how can you tell me it's professional when it doesn't work? Oh, because no, we are getting confused here. You cannot use the word professional about something that doesn't do the job it's intended to. It's not professional. Professional wouldn't do
Yeah.
that. And we got into a right mess with this. I will.
Absolutely. And so, first of all, yeah, you've got to use what works. But I think everybody can feel that feeling of being sold to. And how can you describe that as professional, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was a funny conversation, David. Honestly, everyone else on that, it was on a call actually. They were just sat going.
Yeah.
uh,
Enthusiasm is good, but you got to do it in the right way. You can be excited about what you're talking about and what you're solving, but it can't go over the top.
yeah. Okay, so we're breaking this down. So we've talked about research. We've gone in, we're researching, we're getting a kind of a really good idea. This is what we suspect is probably going to go on. That's probably going
Hmm.
to stimulate some conversation. We can go in and we can kind of kickstart with that, which it's about me. That's interesting. Got their attention. You then talked about it being at account level. So can we just go in a
Yeah.
little bit more detail around that, what you were meaning?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times people feel like they need to prospect that person who is going to sign the contract, who's going to make the final decision. And that it's important, obviously. Eventually you are going to have that conversation. But what we believe is it's really important to think through who are the people who are going to be impacted by what you're selling. Who are the individuals who are going to be part of that discovery and buying process, and trying to identify that and have as many conversations within that account with those individuals, both to make sure you're the right product or service for them based upon some of the qualifications and based upon some of the companies that you've helped in the past that make the right fit and the types of pains that they're having. And then you can move your way up to those other conversations. But I would argue it's best not to start at the top, and it's
Mm.
best to start around the top, both because you can get referred up, but also more importantly, you're getting the information on that front line. And so the methodology that we will often use is had briefly alluded to is more of a discovery led prospecting call where we try to get the right to ask some questions about their situation and learn more, even in that initial discovery call. I mean, like a prospecting call, to be able to get to those next steps.
And is that is that because in some ways it might be easier to go with some people that are, I'll say lower down, not as senior in the decision making unit? Because this is what we're talking about, isn't it? I use the language DMU, decision making unit. It's the unit. Everyone comes together. They've all got a
Yeah.
bit of a say. It's probably easier going in unless you've got something incredibly compelling to go in at the top. But then you've got to get your head around strategy, and you really have to think like a C-suite exec, which is I think
Yeah.
harder for some people to do. You might find it easier to speak to people at another level. It's a you can make sense faster of the sort of stuff that they're probably going to be caring about. Is that have I interpreted that right?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. So I think first of all, yes, it is
Mm.
easier to get them on the phone to have those conversations. And in a world where it's not so easy to get people on the phone, being able to get somebody on the phone is a win right there. And so that is definitely part of it. I think there's a little more which you alluded to, but I'll lay it out. First is that, as you've talked about, and I think we all know, it's important to get in early
Mm.
and try to get in even before an RFP is happening, And in order to do that, you need to get some information that sometimes those VPs or C levels aren't even really thinking about at that point because it's early, right? So what are some of the key bottlenecks that are happening on lines? How is the equipment doing? What are some of the things that when did you buy it last? And then you can sort of think about like some of the gaps that are missing. These are like things that the C level or VP are aware of and they might ask about, but it's not their day to day. And so being able to talk to people where it's their day to day to really understand when they are going to need to be thinking about this type of purchase and understanding some of the limitations of what they're currently using. Sometimes that information is best gotten from them because you know what, when the C-level person needs that information, that's who they're going to, right? So first of all, you're getting some of that data that might be harder to get at the higher level. And then lastly, to your point, then you've earned the right to move up the chain because you have some insights that are going to be helpful to those higher level folks. You can leave a voicemail that might be more intriguing, send an email that is more intriguing, or if you do get them on the phone, all of a sudden you have more to talk to them about that might be interesting to them versus just trying to book an appointment.
Yeah. I notice you've used the word or the expression earn the right a number of times.
Yeah.
Very deliberately. I think it's a brilliant expression. It's what I encourage people to think about. You're trying to take someone's time,
Yeah.
basically. That is their most valuable resource. So you've got to earn the right to do that. Now, it's because you have that. Okay, if people don't like the word assumption, you have this hypothesis of this is what might be going on in your world. This problem, this issue,
Yeah.
this challenge probably exists. But as you start to find that out and you can then go upwards, you are saying in your business, because I've chatted to your people, yeah, this isn't even now a hypothesis. This is like concrete. It's going on because I've checked. Right, you've absolutely earned that right to have a conversation with them, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we do. Like you said, time is executives' most coveted resource. They don't have enough of it. And so if you are looking at it from your perspective and what you want from them versus their perspective as to what they're trying to get done, prospecting isn't going to work. And so by getting that information, you now can change that conversation into something that is really valuable to them, that they want to have. You're solving issues maybe they didn't even completely realize or weren't on their radar as to things that they should be tackling. And that's when you really can differentiate yourself as a salesperson.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we're talking. I don't think we're talking too philosophically. I think we're being fairly practical here. We're being sort of fairly, realistic in the stuff we're talking about. Should we go super tactical? I know folk who listen to these, they love a tactic here, and sort of almost think about the call mechanics. Because I'm listening to what you're saying, going, yeah, 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 get all this. How does that work in the way in which we would actually structure a call? We're sat here, we're dialing the number, we're going to go in. Are you advocates of permission-based openers? Have you got a different way in which you would kind of lead in to getting all this goodness out? Have you got a preferred way of kind of just literally running that call?
Yeah. So what we really do believe at the beginning, because it is a cold call, right? And it is something that we're catching, especially these individuals by surprise, is we do believe, especially because our calls are usually longer because they are discovery led, to
Mm.
ask for permission to ask a few questions. And
Yeah.
so generally we are being very honest, just like, ethical selling in the back that we're calling a few folks and just asking a few questions of plant managers in XYZ industry and things like that, a few questions just to get a sense of your current situation. And it is amazing how often people are open to just answering a few questions, especially if asked in the right way. So you don't want to overcomplicate it. You don't want to make it sound too salesy. And then you want to ask them some questions that are really just practical for them and also show that you understand their industry so that they are really specific to who they are and what they do. And so I'll pause there for a second, but it's really not rocket science. You want to have a very just non-salesy approach to saying, I'd love to just ask you a few questions that we're asking some other plant managers in XYZ industry. Would you have a few minutes just for a quick conversation?
Okay, cool. Simple as that. And then the first question that you've got locked and loaded, is an incredibly intelligent one. It's showing you've done your research. Yeah, it's going to land, it's going to get them to think, and they're going to go, you must know our world. Someone who doesn't know our world wouldn't be asking us this.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So we're very, very careful. Well, probably all the questions, but certainly that first one. Yeah, that's where it's going to land, and they're going to think, oh, wow. Yeah, they get me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to be methodical about the types of questions that you're asking and keeping them, especially at the beginning, sort of general, right? Because you also run the risk where people start feeling like, okay, wait a second, should I be answering some of these questions? So you want to keep it very high level and helpful about general pains, about general issues, about the specific machines, but those all have to pertain to things that are in their world.
Well, I mean, I was kind of smiling when you said that. So you keep it general. One, because actually I don't really know you still, and I'm not sure I want to do my dirty laundry in public here. Yeah, but also the defense mechanism will start to rise, won't it? So hang on a minute, it's actually a sales call, this, isn't it? Oh, you hid that well, you sneaky little thing. I'm gonna have to be dead careful now. You're gonna get a bit of that potentially, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, how did you do that? You tricked me.
Well, you don't want to come off as being tricky. You say where you're confident, you say you have a few questions, right? And you don't want to seem like you're tricking or you're
Yeah.
baiting and switching. I'll be honest, a lot of that is the tonality and the way you're approaching that call, the words that you're using that you are like they sitting at the bar with them. You're taking pauses, you're not rushing, and it is amazing how a lot of times people respond to how you say something more than exactly what you're saying. So there is a lot to that in seeming like you are somebody who they want to talk to, who are open to talking to, but you definitely don't want to seem like you're trying to trick them because that is going to stall everything out. And I don't think you are really, right? You're asking them some questions about their issues, about their pains, and hoping that you've got something that can help them. I don't know. I don't see what's really tricky about that.
No, I don't. It's tricky if it does turn into the bait and switch.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you a few questions. Aha! You said that. Well, amazing. Guess what we've got? Boop.
Right.
No, and that will do damage. That will do damage, won't it?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. The tonality. Um. Do I ask a question about tonality? We could go down a right rabbit hole here. Look, I mean, getting that right, it takes a bit of practice, doesn't it? You need to know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Um, that wasn't a
A-
question, was it? That was a
and well, here, the other
statement.
thing about it is you have to have the confidence on the call because a
Yeah.
lot of times people will speed up. They want to get everything in, they want to ask all the questions, and it's actually the opposite. You got to slow down. If you
Mm.
seem like you're rushing and you're like, then it's like off, right? One of our best SDRs, I mean, is so deliberate in every word, and she's slow and takes pauses and she draws you in and you just want to talk to her. And so it's that type of mentality, like when you're talking about that excited person, right? Probably they're excited, they're speeding up, they're so excited, it's like, whoa, okay, I'm
Yeah.
exhausted. You want somebody who's just it feels good to talk to. It's almost like you are bringing down the tension of that individual's day. And it's amazing how magic can happen when you approach those calls in that way. And that just takes practice because again, it is hard to get people on the phone. And so all of a sudden you feel like, oh my gosh, I got somebody to pick up. I
Quick.
got to
Where we
get it
go?
all in. My adrenaline is pumping. And you've got to do the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, your mind's racing, isn't it? It's like, oh, quick. Oh, they're there. They answered. Oh my. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's an interesting one. Okay. So discovery-based prospecting, all about researching, all about understanding, all about getting into that discussion as fast as you possibly can, because that's probably going to be a bit different to what a lot of people will have experienced. Uh, what else do we need to know? What have I not asked you? That's such a lame podcast question, isn't it?
No, it's great. I think the other thing that potentially some of the sales leaders do need to think about who might be listening is in industrial. I think we've been blessed that we have some amazing salespeople who over the past 30 plus years have built amazing relationships, have a great book of business, have built what we're saying on a one-to-one basis, right? And they know their prospects, they understand the issues that they're having. But we're getting to the point where some of those folks are starting to retire, right? And I think that sales leaders need to, and I know that they are, think about that and the structure where what is leaving when these individuals go away. Because if you've built a sales process all around just one-to-one relationships, all of a sudden that can be a challenge. And so I do think it's important to obviously bring in younger salespeople, have a transition, move some of those things over. But the one thing I would say that I think is something at least to consider is in industrial having some folks who are dedicated to the motion we've been talking about, doing some of this prospecting, and then being able to continuously hand over some of those insights without being so dependent on one person knowing those key people. And so I do think it allows during this transition period to create some different structures that make it so people aren't so dependent on just those individuals who have those relationships, and figuring out how to make sure that moving forward you have a structure that both allows for some of the things that we're doing, because a lot of the times those salespeople aren't going to do prospecting, right? They're going to do it, but if you want to continually build your business instead of just maintain your business and reduce some of the risk of knowledge just leaving your organization, this type of structure I think is interesting. And I don't think sometimes people think of it through that prism. And I think it's something at least worth exploring.
Yeah. I wonder if that's another podcast, David.
Yeah. Yes.
No, seriously, it is, because I'm thinking of a guy that I used to work with back in the day who left the business 40 years with one company. And when he left, he's like, well, do you want to capture some of the stuff that I've got? Do you want? No. Right,
Yeah.
it really upset the guy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really upset him. And quite rightly so. But I mean, that's naive from the business point of view.
So naive. Think about how much value is walking out in that mind, in that person.
Uh, Amazing. Maybe they're the people who should be doing this. Hmm? So we give it to the youngest
Yeah.
people quite often, don't we? Yeah, youngest, least experience. You're going to now do the most important job, which is getting the original conversation started. Yeah, perhaps it should be the most senior.
But I think that's an important point. And that there is something nice about doing prospecting and learning and building into that role. But when you want to do it right and be able to lead with these types of discovery led questions and then come up with some insights, it's really hard for a junior person who has never been in the industry before to do it. So we do believe, like, we don't hire kids out of college. We do recruit individuals who have been in sales for years, who just like the prospecting side of things and can have that acumen to be able to understand the industry, understand the products, and be able to have those high level conversations. Because to your point, a lot of times we are setting these kids up to fail because they don't know it. And to do this well, you need to have a deeper understanding and to be able to have the right types of conversations, surface the right types of insights. And so that also requires some rethinking.
Yeah. Oh, we are opening another can of worms here, but but that's what you guys do, right? That's what you're here for. So if people want to reach out and talk more about that with you before we do the next podcast, where will they find you, David?
Yeah, so we're at salesroads.com. You can check us out there. I'm very active on LinkedIn, posting things. Please reach out, connect with me, ask me any questions. I post a lot of things there, so you can follow me as well.
Brilliant. We'll put links to both of those into the show notes so people can find those dead
Thanks so much, Fred.
and get in touch. But thank you for coming on and sharing some ideas and sort of chatting about this wonderful world of sales that we hang out in.
No, that's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.